The night is cold and very quiet. The street in the residential area has long since fallen asleep. Only the streetlight on the corner flickers, casting streaks of yellow light into the darkness. Mino is walking, or rather, he's not walking anymore. He's almost falling forward. His body, strong and toned, is now unresponsive. His head is pounding. Every breath burns his side. He feels the sticky moisture under his shirt, slowly spreading and clinging to his skin. He tries to focus on simple things. There's a crack in the pavement. There's the shadow of a fence. There's someone's porch. He just needs to reach the corner, then another. Find someplace dark, wait it out. But his legs are weak. His feet cling to the uneven asphalt. His heart is pounding somewhere in his throat. His vision is swimming. He stops for a second, resting his palm on the cold plaster of someone else's garage. His palm slips. Mino slides to the ground. He tries to get up again, pushes off the asphalt with his hands, takes a step, and trips over the low curb, separating the sidewalk from the tiny courtyard. The fall seems long. He doesn't even feel the impact, only the cold earth beneath his cheek and the taste of dust on his lips. He lies on his side, curled up, staring into the darkness beneath the lilac bushes. A meter from his face, a dark, almost black spot is spreading on the gray asphalt. It's slowly growing, its edges jagged, like a strange puddle. Mino blinks, trying to clear his vision. He realizes this is his spot. It should have remained somewhere out there, far away, in another world. But it's here. It's treacherous, bright, even in this darkness. They will come for him. This spot will be the one to find him. He tries to crawl away, to burrow under a bush, but his muscles won't obey. All he can do is lie there and watch as the stain gets a little bigger. The last thought in his head is quiet and simple. That's it. The end. In a room on the ground floor across the street from me, it casts a soft orange glow on the walls, resembling stars and the moon. Abby isn't sleeping. She should have fallen asleep an hour ago. Molly's mom has already come in twice and said in a quiet, tired voice, "Sleep, honey." But Abby doesn't want to sleep. She's had bad dreams for the past week, and now she's afraid to close her eyes. Better to lie down, look at the stars on the ceiling, and listen to the silence. She turns on her side and looks out the window. It looks like a black square because the curtain isn't completely drawn. Abby sees her room reflected in the glass, the edge of her bed, a stuffed bunny, a shelf of books, and beyond the reflection, a patch of yard and a flickering streetlight. She looks at the lantern. It flickers. Once, twice, goes out, comes back on. Suddenly, something moves in the beam of its light. Abby rises up on her elbow, presses her nose to the cool glass. She sees a shadow, a large shadow of a man. He walks, then falls, disappears from the lantern light. The girl freezes. Her heart starts pounding faster and faster, right in her ears. Who is it? Why did he fall? Maybe he's unwell? She silently slides out of bed and crawls to the window on her knees. Now she can see better. The man is lying on the ground near their fence. He's not moving. Abby squints. There's something dark on the pavement next to him. Something wet. Abby's large, dark eyes widen. They're filled with more than just curiosity, but genuine concern. She knows what it's like to feel bad. She once fell off a swing and scraped her knee. It started bleeding. Her mother turned white and quickly ran for the first aid kit. That puddle outside is just as dark. He's in pain, Abby thinks. And suddenly, this thought becomes the most important one. More powerful than the fear of strangers. More powerful than the rule, don't open the door at night. Someone is lying and hurting right under her window. Abby glances back at her room door. It's quiet behind it. Mom is already asleep. She knows she's doing something forbidden. But she can't just lie down and close her eyes. She has to look, just see if he's okay. Maybe he needs help. The girl tiptoes to the door and carefully presses the handle. The door opens silently. The hallway is dark. Only the light from the nightlight in her room casts a streak of light on the floor. Abby follows this streak, then through the dark living room to the back door. Mom always locks the front door, but sometimes she forgets the back door in the kitchen. Today, she forgot. Abby turns the latch. The sound seems very loud to her. She freezes, listening. The house is quiet. She opens the door, and the cold night air hits her face. The girl slips out into the yard. She's barefoot, and the pebbles on the ground sting her heels. She doesn't pay attention. She runs a short distance to the gate leading to the street. The gate, too, is unlocked. Her heart is pounding so hard now she can almost hear it. Abby peers out from behind the gate. He's still there, lying on his side, not moving. He's so big, enormous compared to her. She takes a small step forward, then another. She comes very close and stops. She sees his face. It is pale, even in the light of the lantern. His eyes are closed. There is dirt on his forehead, and on his light shirt, below the ribs, there is a large, dark, wet stain. Abby squats down. She's afraid to touch him. What if he wakes up and is angry? But he doesn't look angry. He looks like the hare from her dream, the one in trouble. She leans closer, her full lips almost touching his ear. She whispers the very phrase she'd thought of in her head on the way here. She whispers it very clearly and seriously, like an adult. "Don't say a word. I'll hide you in my room." A whisper breaks through the fog in Mino's head. At first it's just a sound, then words. Strange, childish words. "I'm hiding you in my room." His eyelids are heavy as lead. With great effort, he cracks one eye open. The light from the lantern cuts into his pupil. In this blinding light, he sees not a face, but a silhouette. Large, round eyes, looking at him without fear. A small nose, plump, seriously pursed lips, and wavy black hair, which forms a slight halo around his head because of the lantern shining from behind. It's a child. A girl. She said something about a room. About keeping quiet. His thoughts are slow and viscous. He can't figure out why the girl is here, but he doesn't see any threat in her eyes. He sees determination. And something else. Concern? No, it can't be. But it is there. His former life, a world of power, rules, and danger, was crumbling in that moment. There was no place for children there. There was no place for those quiet whispers in the night. There was only finish off or be finished off. His instinct screams at him, "Get up! Run! She'll call the adults!" But his body won't obey. He can't get up, and even if he does, he'll fall after 2 steps. And then they'll definitely find him. There are only 2 options before him. Lie down and wait for the end, or trust this quiet whisper. Trust in the chance. He feels himself nodding. His head barely moves, but it's a nod. Yes. Okay. I won't talk. Abby sees his nod. Relief spreads warmly inside her. He understood. He agreed. Now she needs to act quickly. She grabs his hand. The hand of a grown man is large, heavy, and cold. She tries to lift it, to help him stand. "Get up!" she whispers in a commanding tone. "Quickly!" Mino gathers all his strength again. He pushes his elbow into the ground, then his other hand. He pushes off. The world spins. He rises to his knees, then to one leg. Abby tugs on his arm with all her might, as if she could lift him. Her small, warm, stubborn effort becomes a fulcrum. He gets up, stands, swaying. A tall, muscular man and a little girl in a beige nightgown. "Follow me," Abby says, leading him without letting go of his hand. She doesn't lead him to the front door. She pulls him along the fence to the far corner of the yard. There, behind a large trash can, is a hidden gate. Old, slanted, almost hidden by an overgrown bush. Abby knows all the secrets of her yard. She reaches into the crack, feels for the hidden latch, and presses it. The gate creaks softly as it opens into the yard. She pulls him in after her and immediately closes the gate. They stand in the complete darkness of their small yard. The house in front of them is dark. Abby leads him more confidently now. She knows every stone. She leads him to the back door to the kitchen. The door is still ajar. She peers inside. It's dark and quiet. "Hush," she whispers, and pulls him into the house. They walk through the kitchen. Mino can barely move his legs. He catches his foot on a chair. The creak of wood on the floor sounds like a gunshot. They both freeze. Nothing. Only the ticking of the clock on the wall. Abby leads him further, through the living room, straight to the door of her room. She opens it, lets him in, and immediately closes it behind her. The room smells of childhood. Vanilla, fabric toys, and crayons. The nightlight still illuminates the stars on the walls. It's safe here. This is her world. But now a huge adult problem has burst into this world. Mino stands in the middle of the room, breathing heavily and loudly. He looks around confusedly, like an alien trapped in a dollhouse. Abby thinks quickly. He can't just be left here. If Mom comes in, her gaze falls on the large play closet in the corner. It's not tall, but it's wide and deep. All her stuffed animals are piled up inside, with pillows from her bed piled on top, where she builds a fort. "There," she points her finger. She runs to the closet, opens both doors, and begins quickly pulling out toys, scooping them up into an armful and throwing them under the bed. She clears out space in the back of the closet. Mino understands her thought. He doesn't argue. He bends down and, groaning, climbs inside. It's cramped. He has to tuck his legs in. He sits hunched over in the darkness, among the remaining two stuffed animals. Abby immediately starts throwing toys back at him. She piles them on top of him, on the sides. She hides him like the most precious treasure in a game of hide-and-seek. She places two large pillows on top. Now, at a glance, the closet is a complete mess of toys. And just at that moment, footsteps are heard outside the door, firm, unhurried. It's not the creaking of floorboards. It's someone's footsteps walking down the hallway. They're approaching her room. Abby's eyes widen in horror. She looks around. His sneaker is lying on the floor by the bed. It fell out when he was getting into the closet. She rushes over, grabs it, and throws it under the bed. Then she throws herself onto her bed, pulls the covers over her head, and lies still, pretending to be asleep. The door opens. Molly comes into the room. She's wearing her old robe. Her face looks tired after a long day at work. She always comes in to check on her daughter before going to bed herself. Molly looks at the bed. A small lump is visible under the covers. Her daughter is asleep. She's smiling, but something stops her from leaving right away. She feels something is wrong. The air in the room feels different. Not like usual. It's cool, with a slight scent of the street. Molly shudders involuntarily. She looks around the room. Everything is in its place. The pictures on the wall, the books on the shelf, the doll in the chair, the closet. The closet is open, and as always, it's a creative mess. Abby never puts away her toys. Molly sighs. She approaches the bed to adjust the blanket. Abby lies facing the wall, breathing evenly and deeply. Her mother carefully smooths the edge of the blanket, touching her daughter's shoulder with her hand. Abby doesn't move. "Sleep, my dear," Molly whispers softly. She stands there for another second, listening to the silence. That nagging feeling that something is wrong doesn't go away, but everything looks fine. Her daughter is asleep. The room is fine. It's probably just her fatigue and nerves. She works 2 jobs, and anxiety has become her constant companion. Molly glances at the open closet again. Maybe she should make Abby clean up tomorrow? No, tomorrow. Everyone's too tired today. She turns and leaves the room, quietly closing the door behind her. The click of the handle sounds like salvation to Abby. She lies motionless for what seems like an eternity, afraid to move. Then she cracks open one eye. The room is empty. The door is closed. She hears her mother's footsteps receding down the hall, then the creak of the bed in the next room. Only then does she allow herself to exhale. The exhalation is shaky. She slowly sits up in bed and looks at the closet. From beneath a pile of toys, deep in the darkness, 2 narrow eyes are visible. They look at her. They, too, are filled with relief. The house is finally silent for the night. Abby sits on her bed and listens. She hears her mother tossing and turning in her room. Then there's complete silence. Her mother has fallen asleep. Now she can act. She quietly climbs out of bed. Barefoot, she approaches the closet without making a sound. She carefully rakes the toys from above, setting them aside. Soon his face appears. He is still sitting, hunched over. His eyes seem very dark in the darkness. He doesn't say a word, just as he promised. Abby looks at him. She feels sorry for him. He must be uncomfortable. And he's probably thirsty. She raises her finger to her lips. Shh. Then she gestures. "I'll be right back." She turns and tiptoes out of the room into the hallway. She's scared. The darkness in the living room seems thick and alive. Every sound makes her flinch. But she remembers her goal. She makes her way to the kitchen. Here, a little light falls through the window from a street lamp. Abby finds a carafe of water on the table. She picks up her mug, the one with the kitten, and carefully pours water. The sound of pouring water seems deafening to her. She stops and listens. Silence. Then she opens the refrigerator. Its light briefly floods the kitchen. Abby squints. She finds half an apple, wrapped in plastic, and 2 pieces of bread. She takes them all. She closes the refrigerator. Darkness again. The walk back seems longer. She holds the mug in one hand, the food in the other. She returns to her room and closes the door just as quietly. She goes to the cabinet and hands him a mug of water. He takes it slowly, as if afraid to make a sudden movement. His large hand completely encircles the child's cup. He lifts it to his mouth and drinks. He drinks slowly, greedily. Abby hears him swallow. Then he hands her the empty mug. She hands him an apple and some bread. He takes them and begins to eat silently. He eats quickly, but tries not to make a sound. He looks at her between bites. His gaze no longer holds the animal panic it had in the yard. There's something else there now. Bewilderment, cautious gratitude. Abby sits on the floor in front of the closet, tucking her legs under her in her beige dress. She just sits there and watches him as he eats. She doesn't know who he is. She doesn't know what he was running from, but she knows he was in trouble. And now he's here, and he's eating her bread, and everything is okay. Mino finishes eating. He looks at this little girl with huge, serious eyes. She saved him, without asking anything, simply because she saw that he was in pain. A new, strange feeling appears in his chest, next to the pain from the wound. Something warm and very fragile, something he hasn't felt in a long time, or ever. He nods slowly to her again. Thank you. Abby smiles back, a small, barely noticeable smile. Then she quietly gathers up the mug and wrappers, crawls back, and begins pelting him with toys again, leaving only a small gap for air. Sleep, she whispers through the crack. We'll think of something tomorrow. She climbs into her bed and pulls the covers up. But now she's not afraid to fall asleep. Now she's not alone in the room. Now she has a secret. A huge, quiet, and very important secret in the closet. Morning arrives with streaks of sunlight streaming through the curtains. Molly wakes with the usual sense of fatigue. She needs to wake Abby for preschool and get ready for work herself. She puts on her robe and goes into her daughter's room. Her mind is racing with thoughts of bills, the grocery list, and the need to remember to mend Abby's dress. Abby, honey, it's time to get up, Molly says, opening the door. The girl is no longer asleep. She's sitting on the bed, wearing her beige dress. She looks strangely focused. She doesn't run to hug you, as usual. Good morning, Mom, Abby says quietly. Good morning, baby. Are you ready yet? Molly approaches the bed to kiss the top of her head. Her gaze automatically glides around the room. Order. The toys are still scattered in front of the closet. They'll need to be put away. And then she sees it. Something is sticking out from under the bed, from the dark gap between the bedspread and the floor. Something dark, not a toy. Molly bends down to take a closer look. Her brain refuses to comprehend it. It's a hand, a large, masculine hand in the sleeve of a dark, dirty shirt. The hand lies relaxed on the floor, palm up. It's motionless. At first, Molly thinks it's a hallucination. From fatigue, she blinks. The hand doesn't disappear. An icy wave of fear rises from her stomach to her throat. Everything inside her tightens. The air stops flowing into her lungs. She can't scream. She can only stare at that strange hand in her daughter's room. Abby, her voice is a hoarse whisper. What is this? She abruptly pulls back the covers hanging from the bed and looks under it. There's a man lying there, enormous, in the tight space between the bed and the floor. His eyes are wide open and staring straight at her. He's not moving. He just lies there and stares. A mother's instinct kicks in before panic completely overwhelms her. Molly lets out a short, strangled sound and jerks away from the bed. She grabs Abby, who's been sitting motionless this whole time, wraps her arms around her, and in an instant, drags her to the door, shielding her with her body. Her body is shaking. Her heart is pounding so hard her chest hurts. The whole world has narrowed to this room, this bed, and the stranger beneath it. You! Her scream finally escapes the door, loud and piercing with horror and rage. Who are you? Get out! Get out of here immediately, and get out of my house! She looks around, searching for something to protect her. A vase, a lamp. Her gaze falls on an old baseball bat standing in the corner behind the closet. It's a memento of her brother. She almost takes a step toward it. Abby breaks free from her grip, her face contorted not with fear, but with despair. No, Mom, no! She screams. But Molly doesn't hear her anymore. She's looking only at the bed. The man begins to move slowly, with visible effort. He crawls out from under the bed. First his shoulders appear, then his back. He climbs out and carefully rises to his knees, then to his feet. He rises to his full height. He's tall, very tall, and he fills half the room. He stands slightly hunched over, his hand pressed to his side. His blonde hair is matted, his face pale as a sheet. He looks terrifying. But he doesn't make any threatening movements. He simply stands there and looks at Molly and then at Abby. Abby slips under her mother's arm and runs fearlessly toward him. No, not toward him. She steps between him and Molly. She spreads her arms wide, like a little shield, in her beige dress. Don't touch him! She screams at her mother. Her voice is clear and firm. He's not bad. He hurt. He was in pain. I hit him. It was me! Molly freezes, hand outstretched. Her brain tries to process the words. She hit him. He hurt. What have you done, Abby? Molly's voice trembled. He fell in the yard! The words pour out of Abby. She speaks quickly, choking, her eyes filling with tears, but she doesn't back down from her position. I saw it from the window. He was lying there, and it was dark on the ground, just like that time with my knee. I went out. I told him to be quiet and that I would hide him in my room. And he nodded. He stayed quiet all night. She turns around and points to the open cabinet. He was sitting there. I gave him water and bread. He didn't do anything wrong, Mom, honestly. He just lay there and felt sick. Molly looks from her daughter to the man. Horror slowly begins to blend with understanding. She sees more than just a threat now. She sees details. His unnatural pallor, the dark, dried stain on the side of his shirt, where he presses his hand, the deep shadows under his eyes. He doesn't look like someone who's come to rob or scare. He looks like someone who can barely stand. You let a stranger off the street, into the house, at night. Molly says this mostly to herself, trying to comprehend the scale of the disaster. Fear for her daughter gives way to a cold shudder at the thought. What could have happened? Anything. I promised him, Abby insists, tears streaming down her face. I said I'd hide it. I couldn't leave him there. Molly shifts her gaze to the man. She truly looks at him for the first time. He's young, not much older than her nephews. His face, despite the weariness and dirt, doesn't seem angry. In his eyes, she sees not aggression, but heavy weariness, pain, and regret? He looks at Abby and then at her, and in his gaze, there's a clear understanding of the horror he's brought into their home. He carefully, very slowly, raises his empty palm. A peace gesture. Then he presses it to his side again, and his face momentarily contorts into a grimace. Mom, look! Abby whispers, no longer screaming. He needs help! Molly is silent. The rupture is tearing her apart. One part screams, call the police, throw him out, lock the door. Another part, the one who has been a nurse for 10 years, sees a patient, sees a person in trouble. And a third part sees her daughter, looking at her with pleading eyes, completely consumed by the belief that she did the right thing. Who are you? Molly finally asks. Her voice is hard, but no longer shouty. What are you doing here? And what's wrong with your side? The man coughs. The cough is dry and painful. He pauses, gathering his strength. My name is Mino, he says quietly. His voice is hoarse, as if he hasn't had a drink in a while. He speaks with a slight accent. I'm in trouble. Big trouble. I wouldn't hurt anyone. Especially her. He nods at Abby. Your daughter. She saved me. She's very brave. He takes a breath, and it seems to cost him a lot of effort. I understand your shock, your fear. You're right. I shouldn't have been here. I'm sorry. I'm deeply sorry. He takes a step back towards the window, as if he is going to leave right now. I'm leaving. Right now. But he pauses, his gaze sharp and serious. Give me one day. Just one. I need to contact one person, to resolve one issue, and then I'll be gone forever, and you'll never see me again. He looks straight into Molly's eyes. His gaze is no longer tired, but clear and focused. And for this day, for your risk, for your fear, I will offer you compensation. Good compensation. The word hangs in the air. It sounds alien in this child's room, smelling of wax crayons. Compensation. Molly freezes. All her thoughts suddenly come to a screeching halt. Horror, maternal instinct, professional compassion, all of it recedes for a second before one simple, brutal fact of her life. There's never enough money. She's the only one supporting Abby. Working 2 jobs is draining her to the last drop. Rent bills, daycare bills, the mortgage for the car that broke down last winter. All of this weighs heavily on her shoulders every day, every night. She looks at this Mino. He talks about compensation as simply as he talks about the weather. There's no boasting in his tone, just a statement of fact. He can pay. He's offering to pay for this nightmare. This is wrong. This is terrible. She should kick him out. But one day, just one day. And compensation. A sum enough to breathe freely for at least 6 months? To buy Abby that castle bed she dreams of? To pay off her most urgent debt? Molly hesitates. She feels her principles cracking under the weight of daily struggle. She hates herself for thinking this, but it's there. She's strong and practical. Abby looks at her mother, not understanding the word, but understanding the hesitation. Mom, can he stay? Just a little? He gave his word they wouldn't find us. They? Molly responds instantly. Mino presses his lips together. The people I left behind. They're looking for me, but they don't know about you. And they won't. I give you my word. Molly closes her eyes for a second. Her mind spins. The image of her daughter in danger, the image of a wad of cash, the image of this haggard young man looking at Abby with gratitude, not threat. She opens her eyes. The decision has been made. It's not perfect, it might be stupid, but it has been made. One day, she says firmly and clearly. Exactly one day. Not a minute more. Mino nods, his shoulders relaxing slightly. You stay in this room. You don't go anywhere. Not to the window, not into the hallway, nowhere. I'll bring you food, water, and I'll look at your wound. I'm a nurse. Now he nods. And Molly swallows. She's ashamed to say it, but she has to. Compensation. We'll agree on an amount. Clearly. Before you leave. Fair enough, Mino answers quietly. I'll get everything ready. Mom, thank you. Abby rushes to hug Molly, but Molly gently pushes her away. This isn't a game, Abby. This is very serious and very dangerous. You promise me you'll keep quiet? No talking about this to anyone. Ever. This is our biggest secret. Abby sighs earnestly, understanding the gravity of the moment. Molly looks at Mino. I'll get the first aid kit and breakfast, and then we'll talk. She takes Abby's hand and leads her out of the room to make breakfast. Her hands are shaking. She's just made a deal with the devil, or perhaps with a guardian angel, who has come in a very strange and dangerous form. Time will tell. They have one day. Molly returns to the room with a large, old medicine cabinet from the bathroom and a plate with 2 sandwiches. She places the food on the table and opens the medicine cabinet. Her movements are sharp and precise. She's still angry and afraid, but her professional skills prevail. Sit down, she says to Mino, pointing to a chair. He obeys. He sits up straight, but it's obvious he's struggling. Molly puts on the disposable gloves she always carries in her purse. She doesn't look him in the eye. She focuses on the task at hand. We need to see the damage, she says neutrally. Mino slowly lifts the hem of his dirty shirt. Beneath it is a bloody, sweat-stained bandage, made of something dark, like t-shirt fabric. The air in the room takes on a sweet, metallic scent. Molly carefully cuts away the old bandage with the tips of the scissors. She doesn't wince. She's seen a lot. A wound opens beneath the bandage. Not deep, but long, jagged, red, and inflamed at the edges. It was clearly from something sharp. The wound is old, poorly treated, and now it could become more inflamed. Molly silently applies antiseptic to the surrounding skin. It's cold. Mino winces but doesn't make a sound. Then she applies a new, clean bandage with ointment. Her fingers work quickly and skillfully. You have a fever, she says, finishing the dressing. The wound is inflamed. You need antibiotics. I don't have any. I'm not a doctor to prescribe them, Mino says quietly. Thank you. That's enough. She takes off her gloves, throws them and the old bandages into a separate bag, which she ties immediately. Hygiene first, then she points to the sandwiches. Eat and drink lots of water. She packs her first aid kit and leaves without looking back. She doesn't want to ask questions. She's afraid to hear the answers. The day drags on. Molly sends Abby off to daycare, telling her it's a special day and she needs to be extra quiet. She calls work herself and says she's sick. She can't sit still. She cleans, but her thoughts revolve around the man in her daughter's room. To drown them out, she turns on the small television in the living room. The morning news is on. First they talk about the weather and traffic jams. Then the presenter's face turns serious. Oh! The search continues for those involved in a series of serious incidents in the port area. Police warn that these individuals are extremely dangerous and may be armed. Please report any information. 2 photographs appear on the screen. Men in business suits, their faces stony and unkind. One is older, with graying hair at the temples. The other is young, with cold eyes and thin lips. The photographs look like official ones, but it's clear from them that these men are serious. Molly freezes, rag in hand. She peers closer. No, she's never seen them before, but they exude such an icy menace that a chill runs down her spine. Abby's door is cracked open. Mino stands behind it. He's heard the keywords on the news. He peers through the narrow crack and sees the screen. Sees those 2 faces. His own face instantly changes. All fatigue, all pain disappears. Only a cold, absolute mask remains. A stony, impenetrable expression. Something other than fear flashes in his eyes. Deep knowledge and warning. He moves away from the door as quietly as he approached. Molly sees the movement out of the corner of her eye. She turns and glances at the crack in the door. She sees a shadow retreat inward. She saw his face change the moment he looked at the screen. She understands everything. without a single word. These people on the screen are the very same they, the ones he was running from, the ones looking for him, and they really do look extremely dangerous. She turns off the TV. The living room goes quiet. Too quiet. Now she knows what she's dealing with, and that knowledge weighs heavier on her shoulders than a stone. That evening, Abby returns from kindergarten. She's well-behaved and quiet. She goes straight to her room, closes the door, and begins whispering to Mino. Molly hears this muffled baby talk from the window. She's preparing dinner, consumed by anxiety. Over dinner, she tries to carefully find out what Abby thinks about all this. Abby, honey, aren't you afraid of that man in your room? Abby looks at her mom with her big eyes and shakes her head. No, he's good. But good people don't show up like that. With wounds, in the night, Molly says carefully. He was sick, Abby repeats stubbornly. I helped. You helped too. You treated him. So you think he's a good person too. The child's logic is impeccable and inconvenient. Molly sighs. It's not that simple. He may be in trouble, but his trouble may be contagious. For us. Abby shrugs and picks at her fries with her fork. He promised they wouldn't find us, and he'll keep his word. I know it! Molly looks at her daughter. Abby has blind, absolute faith. Adults don't have that anymore. They always doubt, like she doubts now. After dinner, while Molly is washing the dishes, the doorbell rings. It's a normal, quiet ring, but to Molly, it sounds like a siren. She wipes her hands and slowly walks to the door. She looks through the peephole. Two men in dark, expensive suits stand in the doorway. They look respectable, but Molly recognizes them immediately. They are the same faces from the morning news, the older one with gray hair and the younger one with cold eyes. They stand and smile politely. Ice runs down her spine. She wants to run, to lock herself in, but her feet are rooted to the floor. She opens the door but doesn't remove the chain. The gap is narrow. Yes? Good evening, the elder says. His voice is pleasant and calm. Sorry to bother you. We're your new neighbors from across the street. Have you noticed anyone suspicious in the area? Young, tall, possibly injured? We're concerned about the safety of the neighborhood, especially where there are children. He speaks very convincingly, but his eyes, these light gray eyes, do not smile. They scan her face, the space behind her. Molly's heart is pounding so loudly she thinks she can hear it through the door. Her mouth is dry. Every cell in her body is screaming, "They're here! They've found him!" But she remembers Mino's stony face when he saw them on TV. She remembers her fear and the word compensation. She remembers Abby, who is there now, in the room, probably hearing every sound. Molly forces a smile. Weakly, apologetically. Oh, no, thank you. I didn't see anyone like that. Everything's quiet. But thanks for the warning. I'll be more careful. She looks straight into those cold eyes. Her own eyes reveal only the weariness of a lonely mother who has no time for strangers. The gray-haired man stares at her for a few more seconds. Then his gaze slides to the side, across her modest hallway. He sees the children's shoes, Abby's jacket. Nothing suspicious. Okay. Sorry again for the disturbance. Have a nice evening. And you, Molly whispers and closes the door. She turns the key and stands, her forehead pressed against the cold wooden panel, unable to move. Her legs are wobbly. There's no sound in Abby's room. Complete silence. Absolute. When Abby finally falls asleep, Molly enters her room. Mino is sitting on a chair by the window, awake. He stares into the darkness beyond the glass. He turns around as she enters. In his hand is an old, simple push-button phone. He holds it like a weapon. Who are they? Molly asks without preamble. Her voice is quiet but firm. The truth. Now. Mino looks at her, his stony mask melting slightly, revealing weariness. It was my business. The family business. I was in charge. But I realized where it was heading. I decided to leave. For good. With clean hands. In our world, leaving is a betrayal. It's not forgiven. They won't forget, and they won't forgive. They'll keep searching until they find. To make an example, he says this simply, without emotion, as a statement of fact. And they're looking for you, all over the city. And they were at my door, Molly says. He nods. Yes. So they're combing the area, but they don't know I'm here. Your reaction was correct. They believed you. For how long? Her voice breaks. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll leave. And they'll leave here too. They're looking for a trail, not a house. I'll make sure the trail leads away from here. He picks up the old phone. I need to make one call to one person. someone I still trust. He'll help with the money and with a distraction. Molly nods. She's too deep into the story to back out. Do it, but quietly. She goes out, leaving him alone. A few minutes later, she hears a very quiet, short conversation in Korean behind the door. Then silence. Mino steps out into the hallway. It's all agreed. Tomorrow morning, they'll leave a bag at your fence. The money, just like we agreed. And in the evening, I'll disappear. The next morning, Molly, as soon as she wakes up, looks out into the yard. By the fence, by that same secret gate, sits a plain black, medium-sized duffel bag. It wasn't there yesterday. She gets out, quickly grabs her bag, and carries it into the house. It's heavy. Mino's room. Abby is already awake and looking at everything with wide eyes. Mino unzips the bag. There's nothing inside but cash. Neat, tightly packed bundles. Lots of bundles. It's more money than Molly has ever seen at one time in her life. Even more than she imagined when she heard the word compensation. Mino pulls out several packs and places them on the table. He leaves the rest in his bag. This is for your risk, for your fear, for your silence, and for helping, he says, looking at Molly. Then he turns his gaze to Abby. And for the greatest courage in the world, he closes the bag and pushes it towards Molly. Molly looks at the money. She doesn't touch it. A struggle rages within her. To accept this money would be to accept payment for her recklessness, for breaking all the rules, for a night of fear. I can't, she begins. Mom, Abby says quietly, can we buy that castle bed? These words are the last straw. Molly sees her daughter's face full of hope. She remembers all the lack of sleep, all the bills, all the, no, honey, another time. She remembers the debts. She closes her eyes, then opens them. She looks at Mino. Okay, I accept, but not as payment, as help. And we will never see each other again. You will disappear, forever, forever, he confirms. Abby realizes he'll be leaving that evening. She doesn't cry. She becomes very serious. She sits down at her desk and begins to draw. She draws for a long time, with concentration. By evening, the drawing is ready. She gives it to Mino. Are 3 people in the drawing. Mom, Molly in her yellow robe, is standing on one side. Abby, in a beige dress, is standing in the middle, holding the hand of a huge man. Mino. She drew him as very tall, with yellow hair. All 3 are smiling. The sun is shining above them, and below, under their feet, there is not asphalt, but green grass and flowers. Mino takes the drawing. He looks at it for a long, long time. Then he carefully folds it and places it in his inside shirt pocket, right next to his heart. Thank you, he says to Abby, his voice shaking slightly. I'll keep it, forever. Just before leaving, he squats down in front of Abby to be level with her. He takes her small hands in his large ones. Abby, listen to me carefully. Those people who came, they're never coming back. Do you understand? Never. You and your mother, you're safe. I'll take care of that. That's my promise to you. He says this not as an adult to a child, but as a man making an oath to the most important being in the world. Abby looks him straight in the eyes and nods. She believes him. You be careful too, she whispers. He smiles. For the first time, truly, it changes his whole face. He looks almost defenseless. Late at night, when the house and the street are quiet, Mino gets ready. He puts on a clean dark sweater that Molly found for him in his old clothes. He takes only his old phone and Abby's drawing. Molly keeps the money. He leaves the room. Molly is waiting for him in the living room. They don't say a word. They just nod at each other. Mino approaches the back door of the kitchen. He looks around. He sees the door to Abby's room. He stands there for a few seconds. Then he opens the door and steps out into the night. The door closes quietly. The click of the lock sounds final. Molly goes to the window and looks out into the yard. She sees no one. He's disappeared, as if he'd never been there. All that remains is the heavy bag under the table and a strange emptiness in the house. And silence. The very silence he promised. The week after Mino left is the most anxious week of Molly's life. She listens constantly, to footsteps in the street, to the creaking of the door, to the phone ringing. She's a light sleeper, and every sound makes her jump. She looks out the window 10 times a day, checking for black cars or men in suits. Abby seems to be returning to normal more quickly. She plays, watches cartoons, but sometimes she falls silent and looks out the window as if waiting for someone. She no longer asks about Mino, but Molly sees the question in her eyes. Every evening, Molly turns on the news. She waits. She fears and waits. And now, 7 days later, she sees it. The same presenter, the same serious face. Key suspects in the criminal network were arrested. They have been charged. The same two photographs appear on the screen again. But these aren't just photos for a wanted list. These are courtroom photos. The men are wearing suits, but without ties. Their faces are tired, and their gazes are lowered to the floor. Police officers stand beside them. Molly sits on the edge of the sofa, holding her breath. She listens to every word. The report talks about witness testimony, suddenly emerging evidence, competent investigative work. Not a word about the fugitive Korean. Not a word about their home. No connection. The report ends. The weather begins. Molly finally allows herself to exhale. A long, deep breath, the kind she feels like she's been waiting for all week. Something heavy and prickly in her chest unravels. She doesn't understand how this happened. She's afraid to even think about what Mino could have done to get those men out of the way so quickly and cleanly. But the fact remains. They've been arrested. They won't be coming to her door again. "Mom, are those the men?" Abby asks quietly, coming into the kitchen for a drink of water. Molly nods. She can't lie. Yes, they were caught. Abby looks at the screen, which now shows a solar map. So he kept his word? It looks like it, Molly says. And for the first time in a long time, she feels not anxiety, but a faint, almost elusive hope. 2 weeks later, Molly takes action. The money is in a bag under her bed. Every time she looks inside, she feels a strange mixture of guilt and relief. She makes a decision. They can't stay in this house. There are too many shadows here. Every corner here reminds them of that night. They need a new start. She finds an apartment. In a different neighborhood, further from the center. It's quiet, with a good school nearby. The apartment is bright, with large windows and a balcony. It's more expensive than their old one, but Molly can afford it. Now she can. She doesn't tell anyone the real reason for her move. At work and to friends, she tells them she received a small inheritance from a distant aunt. Everyone believes her. A tired, single mother with a child. Who would come up with any other story? The move happens quickly. They don't have much. Molly buys almost everything new. Furniture, dishes, curtains. She chooses light, warm colors. She wants the new place to smell not of old fears, but of fresh paint and the future. Abby is initially sad to say goodbye to her room. But when she sees the new, larger room with empty shelves ready to be filled, her eyes light up. "Is this where my castle bed will be?" she asks. "It will," Molly smiles. And it's not a lie. On the first evening in the new place, she and Abby unpack the boxes. Molly gets out the dishes, Abby her toys and books. Abby pulls out a folder of drawings from one of the boxes. She sorts through them, finds one, and carries it into the kitchen. Meanwhile, Molly is hanging magnets on the refrigerator. "Mom, can I?" Abby shows me the same drawing. 3 people. Sun, grass. Molly freezes. She thought Abby would leave him in his old life, hide him. But no, for the girl, this isn't a reminder of danger. It's a reminder of a friend, of a good deed. Molly looks at the drawing, at the smiling yellow sun, at her figure in the yellow robe, at Abby, and at the tall yellow-haired man. This is part of their history. It can't be erased. "Sure you can," Molly says, her voice shaking slightly. She takes Abby's new butterfly magnet and attaches it to the refrigerator door. It hangs there, bright and childish, among the grocery list and calendar. Now it's part of their new home. Not hidden, but on display. It's like a silent admission. Yes, it happened, but now it's over. And here we are. Abby looks at the drawing and smiles. Then she goes to hug her mother. They stand there, in the bright new kitchen, looking at their past, now just a picture on the refrigerator. A month passes. The new life is returning to normal. Abby goes to a new school. Molly has landed a top job at a private clinic. Her skills and recommendations now give her a choice. The castle bed stands in Abby's room. Sometimes in the mornings, Molly hears her daughter humming, hidden behind her fortress walls. The fear has almost gone. Only a faint shadow remains, the one that sometimes flickers when strangers ring the doorbell. But this is a normal, everyday fear. One day, returning from work, Molly notices a small cardboard box at the door of her new apartment. There's no postal service markings on it, just her name and address, written in block letters. There's no return address. An icy premonition grips her throat. She glances around the hallway. No one. She quickly lifts the box. It's not heavy. Molly brings the box into the house and places it on the table. She stares at it for a long time, hesitating to open it. Abby is doing her homework in her room. Finally, Molly picks up the scissors and cuts the tape. Inside, wrapped in soft bubble wrap, lies a doll. It's a beautiful, expensive doll, wearing the exact same beige dress Abby was wearing that night. She has wavy black hair and big eyes. She looks like her. She looks just like Abby. Under the doll lies a plain white envelope with no writing on it. Molly takes the envelope. Her hands are shaking. She pulls out the contents. There's no letter in the envelope. There's only one photograph and a small strip of paper with a printed phrase. Molly looks at the photograph. It's Mino. He stands against the backdrop of the vast, bright blue ocean. He's wearing a light shirt, unbuttoned at the chest. He's tanned, looking healthy and strong. He's smiling. Not the reserved smile they had at home, but a wide, free, genuinely happy smile. There's no longer any heaviness in his eyes, only peace and light. He is alive, he is far away, and he is free. Molly glances at the slip of paper. It's just 4 words, printed in clear font. Thank you for the silence. She sits and looks at the photograph and at these words. Then she begins to cry. Quietly, without a sound. These are tears of relief, tears of the end of a long anxiety. He didn't just run away, he settled in, and he remembers, and he is grateful not for the money, but for the silence, for the silence, for the refuge. She hears footsteps. Abby comes out of the room. Mom, what is this? The girl sees the doll. Her eyes light up with delight. She's beautiful. Is this for me? Yes, honey, for you, Molly says, quickly wiping her eyes. She hands Abby the doll. She holds the photo and note in her hand. Abby picks up the doll, hugs it, then notices the photo. Is that him? Molly nods. She hands the photo to Abby. The girl looks at it for a long moment. He's smiling. He's by the ocean. So he's doing well now? Yes, Molly whispers. It's okay. Abby hands back the photo. I want to keep this. Forever. The next day, Molly buys a small silver locket on a chain. She carefully crops the photograph so that the locket's oval window shows only Mino's smiling face against a blue background. She inserts the photograph and closes the locket. She gives it to Abby. Now it will always be with you. But this is our secret, the most important one. We don't show it to anyone, and we don't tell anyone. Abby nods understandingly. She puts on the necklace with the locket. It lies under her clothes, next to her heart, light and warm. Sometimes, when she's playing or doing her homework, her fingers find the locket through the fabric of her dress. She touches it, and a calm, mysterious smile spreads across her face. She has a secret, the biggest, quietest secret in the world. And this secret now smiles and looks out at the ocean somewhere far away. And everything is all right. 5 years pass. Abby is now 11. She's tall and lanky, but the same deep seriousness still lingers in her eyes. She wears the locket all the time. The chain has grown longer, and now it's hidden under her school uniform or t-shirt. She almost never takes it out, but she often touches it with her fingers through the fabric, especially when she's thinking or worried. Molly works as the head nurse at the same private clinic. They have a good, quiet life in a bright apartment. The money from that bag was spent wisely, on Abby's education at a good school, on a reliable car, on building a small financial cushion. Molly put the rest aside for her daughter's future. They never discussed that night. It's an unbreakable rule. One evening, while Molly is cooking dinner and Abby is doing her homework at the kitchen table, the phone rings. Her cell phone. An unfamiliar number. A landline. Molly wipes her hands and answers. Hello? Molly? The voice on the other end of the line was male. Unfamiliar, but soft and polite. This is Detective Raymond's. From the Records Department. I'm calling about a very old, unsolved case in your old neighborhood. 2 men once rang your doorbell, asking about a suspicious person. Do you remember? An icy hand grips Molly's heart. She slowly sinks into a chair. Abby looks up at her, sensing the change in the atmosphere. It was a long time ago, Molly says carefully. I hardly remember. I understand, but the case is being re-examined in light of new circumstances. One of the men detained then is giving new testimony. He mentions several houses they checked. Your address is among them. He claims he noticed something strange in one of the houses. Did you notice anything unusual then? Maybe later. Noises, signs. Molly looks at Abby. The girl is frozen, the pencil in her hand motionless. Her wide eyes stare at her mother. No, Molly says clearly and firmly. Her voice doesn't shake. Nothing. I was really tired then. I was working 2 jobs. My daughter was little. I honestly don't even remember their faces. And soon after, we moved out. Nothing strange happened. The detective is silent for a second. You moved pretty soon after that call, right? Yes. But it wasn't related. I found a better job, in a different area, for my daughter. You understand? Another pause. I understand. Thank you for your time. Sorry for the disturbance. If you remember anything, I'll definitely call, Molly says and hangs up. She sits, staring at the wall. 5 years of silence. And here it is again. Mom? Abby asks quietly. It's okay, honey. Just old business, Molly says, but her face is whiter than usual. Molly spends the next few days on edge. She checks the locks twice. She peers through the peephole before opening the door. Old fears, seemingly long buried, come to the surface. She doesn't say anything to Abby, but the girl feels everything. She sees her mother flinch at the unexpected sound. She sees her mother secretly glance out the window. Abby watches silently. Then, 3 days later, she approaches her mother, who is washing dishes. The girl is holding an old drawing of hers, taken from the refrigerator many years ago. Mom, she says, remember how you said this was our biggest secret? That we'd never tell anyone? Molly wipes her hands and looks at her daughter. I remember. And he promised they'd never find us. And he kept his word. They were arrested. And now someone's just going through the papers. These aren't the right people. They're just a shadow. Molly looks at the girl, wise beyond her years. Aren't you afraid? Abby shrugs. She touches the medallion through her t-shirt. No, he gave his word. And he kept it. And we gave our word too, to keep silent. And we will keep it. It's just that the papers can't find us. They can only ask, and we can say no. It's that simple. The simplicity of childish logic disarms Molly once again. Abby believes not in the system, not in the police, but in a promise made in the darkness of a child's room. And this faith seems stronger than steel to her. Molly takes the drawing from her daughter's hands. She looks at the yellow sun and the 3 smiling people. You're right, it's just a shadow. And shadows can't hurt if you ignore them. She hands the drawing back to Abby. Maybe we should hang it up again? Abby smiles and nods. A week later, Detective Raymond calls again. He asks for a short meeting. He says it's a formality. He needs to sign papers confirming she's been interviewed. Molly agrees, but she arranges to meet not at her home, but at a cafe near the clinic in a crowded place. She goes there after work. Her heart is pounding, but she keeps her composure. Detective Raymond turns out to be an elderly, tired man in a rumpled suit. He has kind eyes. He doesn't look threatening. He looks like a man buried in paperwork. He shows her some old photographs, photos of their old house, the street. He asks again if she remembers anything. Molly looks at the photos calmly and shakes her head. No, nothing. Like I said, it was a turbulent time. I was constantly stressed. Work, the baby, debts. I barely remember what I had for breakfast back then, let alone a visit from polite neighbors. The detective sighs and makes a note in his notebook. Yes, I understand. I have 2 children of my own. Thank you for your time. He closes the folder. His gaze falls on the chain that had slipped briefly from under the collar of Molly's blouse when she bent over. He sees the locket. It's a beautiful thing, he remarks. Molly quickly tucks the chain back in. A gift. From my daughter. He nods, no longer showing any interest. Their meeting ends. He leaves, taking with him a folder containing what he considers useless testimony. Molly sits at the table for a few more minutes, finishing her cold coffee. She's no longer afraid. She's just tired. Tired of this shadow of the past. But she feels like she's just passed the final test. And she's passed it. A month after meeting the detective, an envelope lands in their mailbox at their new home. There's no stamp, no return address, just the name Molly, handwritten. The handwriting is neat, but unfamiliar. Molly brings it into the house and stares at it for a long time before opening it. Abby is at school. She opens the envelope. Inside is a single sheet of thick white paper. It has just 1 line of printed text. The shadow is cast. No more disturbances. The silence is eternal. M. She reads these words over and over. Then she holds the page up to the lamp, looking for watermarks, traces. Nothing. Just paper and ink. She doesn't know how this letter reached her. She doesn't know how M learned about the detective's call, but she understands the main thing. He's still watching, from afar. Or maybe he has eyes and ears here, and he's confirming his old promise. She doesn't feel fear at the thought. On the contrary, she feels a strange calm. Their silence is guarded by someone who remembers. She burns the letter in the kitchen sink and washes away the ashes. No more traces. Abby is finishing elementary school. At her graduation ceremony, she receives an award for the best literary short story of the year. The story is called The Quiet Friend. In it, the girl finds a wounded bird with colorful plumage in the forest, hides it from predators, nurses it back to health, and then releases it into the wild. The bird flies away overseas, but sometimes the girl thinks she hears its song in the wind. Molly weeps as she reads this story. She understands that this is their story, filtered through the pure soul of a child and transformed into a metaphor. No one but the two of them will understand it. After the ceremony, Abby approaches her mother. She's almost her height now. "Mom, I want to keep studying. I want to be someone who helps, a doctor or a lawyer, someone who protects." Molly hugs her. "You're already a protector, honey. You protected someone who was weaker at that moment. That's the most important choice." "I know," Abby says quietly, "and I want my choice to always be like that." 3 more years pass. Abby is 14. She goes with her class on a field trip to a big city, to a modern art museum. They wander the halls, looking at strange installations. In one of the rooms dedicated to contemporary Asian photography, Abby pauses. A black and white photograph hangs on the enormous wall. It depicts a man's hand, strong, with distinct tendons. On the wrist is a child's, almost toy-like flashlight bracelet, glowing in the dark. The hand rests on the side of a boat, and in the background are the blurred lights of a nighttime city. The work's title, Debt. Abby comes closer. She looks at the flashlight bracelet. It's exactly like the one she gave him that night. Maybe it's just a coincidence. There are a lot of toys like that. She looks at the nameplate of the author. Pseudonym, M.H. Ocean. Abby's heart beats faster. She looks around. Her class has already moved to another room. She is alone in front of this photograph. She stands there for a long time, just staring. Then she takes her locket out from under her blouse. She opens it. She looks at the smiling face against the ocean. She looks at the photograph on the wall. She looks at the bracelet. She says nothing. She simply smiles. A secret, understanding smile. Then she puts the medallion back, turns, and goes to catch up with the class. She has no doubt. It is he. He has become an artist. Or is he simply saying so? And he remembers. He repays the debt not with money, but with light. The light of that small flashlight in the vast darkness. Life goes on as usual. Molly becomes a respected professional. She meets a man, a good, calm architect. He knows Molly and Abby have some deep, secret past that they don't discuss. He respects their boundaries. Abby is growing into a beautiful, intelligent young woman. She still wears the locket, but it's now a part of her, like a beauty mark or the color of her eyes. She's a determined student and volunteers at an animal shelter. She remains as quiet and observant as ever. Sometimes, on very quiet evenings, she and her mother sit on the balcony of their new apartment. They moved to an even more spacious one, on a high floor overlooking the park. They drink tea and silently watch the sunset. They don't need to speak, they just know. They know that their silence, their secret, is not a burden, but a foundation. A foundation on which their new, strong, and peaceful life is built. They never hear from Detective Raymond again. No one comes with questions. The shadow finally dissolves. On her 18th birthday, Abby receives many gifts. From her mother, from friends, from her boyfriend, a kind man from the medical school. That evening, after all the guests have left, Molly gives her one more gift. A small, heavy box made of dark wood. "It's from both of us," Molly says mysteriously. Abby opens the box. Inside, on the velvet lining, lies a key. Not a car or apartment key, an old-fashioned mailbox key, and a piece of paper with an address, the number of a post office box at the city's main post office. "What is this?" Abby asks, surprised. "It's your choice," Molly says. "You're an adult. You can go there and look. Or not. Or go sometime later. I've been paying for this box all these years, ever since the day I got the letter with the letter M. He said there would be something in there for you when you grew up, but only if you wanted it." Abby looks at the key. It's cold and heavy in her hand. She thinks about it for days. A week later, she finally makes it to the post office. She finds the right row of boxes, inserts the key, and turns it. The door opens. Inside is a flat cardboard folder. Nothing else. Abby takes the folder, closes the drawer, and leaves. She finds a quiet corner of a nearby park, sits down on a bench, and opens the folder. There are 2 objects. The first is the original of the very photograph that hangs in her locket, only larger. On the back is the inscription, "Silence is the most precious gift. Thank you for letting me hear it, M." The second item is a stock, a single share of a major international investment fund, in the name of Abby Molly. A statement is attached. The dividends from this stock, accumulated over the years, have already covered her medical school tuition several times over. Abby sits and looks at these two objects, at the memory and at the future, at gratitude expressed not in words, but in deeds. He didn't just say thank you, he gave her the freedom of choice, the freedom to become who she wants, without worrying about debt. She puts the photograph back in the folder. She takes the action with her. She will later frame the photograph and hang it in her future apartment next to that childhood drawing. But that will come later. Many years later, Abby is now a doctor herself. She works as a pediatrician at a good hospital. She has a family, a little daughter. One day, returning from a night shift, she's driving through the quiet city before dawn. At a deserted bus stop, she sees a figure. A young man, almost a boy, sits hunched over. He's clutching his side. His face is contorted with pain and fear. He looks around like a cornered animal. Abby drives past, but after 100 meters, she brakes abruptly. She looks in the rearview mirror at this lonely figure. She remembers another yard, another night, another frightened man. She turns the car around, pulls up to a stop, and rolls down the window. The guy looks at her with wild distrust. He's ready to run. Abby doesn't smile. She speaks calmly and clearly, looking him straight in the eye. Her voice sounds like an echo from the distant past, like the click of a familiar lock. "Don't say a word," she says. "I'll take you somewhere safe." The boy freezes. His eyes reflect the same mixture of despair and last hope. He nods slowly, very slowly. Abby opens the passenger door. The circle closes. The silence, once given, now returns to the world, not as an echo, but as a new living force. The guy gets into the car silently. He's tense as a string. Abby drives without asking questions. She feels his panicked gaze on her, hears his ragged breathing. She's not bringing him home. She has a key to an empty apartment in her building. The neighbors are gone for a month and asked her to water the plants. It's a safe, neutral place. In the elevator, he leans against the wall, eyes closed. Abby acts quickly and professionally, just like at work. In the apartment, she turns on the light, helps him lie down on the couch, and brings him the first aid kit. The wound on his side is a knife wound, shallow but dirty. He doesn't say who he is or who he was running from. Abby doesn't ask. She cleans the wound, applies a bandage. Her movements are precise and impersonal. "Thank you," he finally croaks when she finishes. "You're welcome," she says, washing her hands. She places water and antibiotic tablets, left over from her last illness, in front of him. "Take these to prevent infection." He looks at the pills, then at her. "Why? Why did you help?" Abby looks out the window, where the light is just beginning to break. Somewhere out there is her house, her husband and daughter sleeping. She touches the locket under her sweater. "Because someone once helped me, or rather we helped each other, and it was right." She leaves him the key to the apartment, a wad of cash from her wallet for food, and the number of her old unlinked phone. "Stay here, get better. When you can, leave. And forget this address and my face," as if it never happened. He nods, and in his eyes she sees the same understanding she once saw in Mino's, an understanding of the value of silent help. As she leaves, she turns around at the door. "And promise yourself, if you get out, find a way to help others, just quietly, without words, so that the circle doesn't break." She returns home at dawn. Her daughter is still asleep. Abby goes to her crib and adjusts the blanket. On the nightstand next to her lies a small toy ambulance. Abby smiles. She sits in a chair and watches the first rays of sunlight illuminate the room. The silence in the house is complete, peaceful. She closes her eyes. The circle is not broken. It has taken a new turn. And this is good. This is right. Everything is as it should be.